The judge's gavel echoed through the quiet courtroom, and in a single heartbeat, everything Ethan Walker had built over 15 years disappeared. His marriage was over. His home was no longer his. The woman he had loved with every part of himself walked away without looking back. Carrying nothing but a small suitcase and a heart shattered beyond repair, Ethan stepped out into the cold streets of Boston, Massachusetts. He refused to cry. He refused to beg. He simply walked away without saying a single word. But before he could disappear into the crowd, a gleaming black limousine slowly pulled up beside him, and what happened next would leave everyone who had doubted him speechless. Before we continue, if you believe kindness always comes back, second chances are real, and people should never be judged by their worst day, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories that inspire millions around the world. Ethan had never imagined his life would end this way. Years earlier, he had been a respected structural engineer who believed hard work solved every problem. He wasn't rich, but he was dependable, honest, and deeply committed to his family. His wife, Victoria Brooks, had once admired those qualities. They had met in college, married young, and dreamed of building a future together. For years, everything seemed perfect. Then the economy changed, projects disappeared, and Ethan's company collapsed after a major client declared bankruptcy. Overnight, he lost the career he had spent nearly 2 decades building. Finding another job proved harder than he had expected. Every interview ended with polite rejection. Bills piled up. Their savings slowly disappeared. Ethan accepted temporary construction work, delivery driving, and even overnight warehouse shifts just to keep food on the table. He never complained because he believed difficult seasons eventually passed. But while Ethan fought silently to protect their future, Victoria slowly grew tired of the struggle. She began spending more time with wealthy friends whose lives seemed effortless compared to theirs. Expensive dinners, luxury vacations, and glamorous social events filled her social media, while Ethan worked double shifts to pay the mortgage. The emotional distance between them widened until it became impossible to ignore. Every conversation turned into criticism. Ethan's sacrifices became invisible. His exhaustion became weakness in her eyes. One evening, she calmly placed divorce papers on the kitchen table and said she deserved a better life. Ethan stared at the documents for what felt like hours. He wanted to ask if 15 years of love truly meant nothing. He wanted to remind her of the promises they had made when they had nothing except hope. Instead, he quietly signed the papers. Love could never survive where respect no longer existed. Months later, the divorce became official. Friends disappeared. Some believed Victoria's version of the story, painting Ethan as an unsuccessful man who had failed his family. Others simply avoided choosing sides. Alone and carrying only one suitcase, Ethan walked away from the courthouse believing he had reached the lowest point of his life. As he crossed the sidewalk, the long black limousine stopped beside him. The driver stepped out wearing a tailored suit and respectfully opened the rear door. Ethan looked around, convinced the vehicle belonged to someone else. Before he could continue walking, the driver politely addressed him by name and handed him a sealed envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. It simply read, "Mr. Walker, your integrity has never gone unnoticed. Please allow us the honor of speaking with you." Confused and emotionally exhausted, Ethan climbed into the limousine. The luxurious interior felt like another world. Sitting across from him was an elderly gentleman with silver hair, kind eyes, and remarkable calm. His name was Jonathan Carter, one of America's most respected billionaires and founder of Carter Infrastructure Holdings, a company responsible for building hospitals, bridges, and schools across the country. Jonathan smiled warmly before explaining something Ethan could hardly believe. Nearly 12 years earlier, Ethan had unknowingly saved Jonathan's life. Back then, Ethan had been supervising a bridge inspection outside Chicago. During a routine evaluation, he insisted on closing the bridge immediately after discovering structural weaknesses. His recommendation angered politicians, contractors, and executives because shutting down the bridge would cost millions. Ethan refused to compromise public safety despite enormous pressure. Only hours later, part of the bridge collapsed. Because Ethan had insisted on closing it, hundreds of lives were saved, including Jonathan Carter, whose vehicle had been scheduled to cross that bridge that afternoon. Jonathan had quietly followed Ethan's career ever since. He admired the engineer who had chosen integrity over profit. When Ethan lost his company, Jonathan considered reaching out, but believed Ethan deserved the opportunity to recover on his own. However, after learning about the divorce and the unfair rumors surrounding him, Jonathan decided the time had finally come. He offered Ethan something extraordinary. Not charity, not sympathy, a partnership. Jonathan wanted Ethan to become Chief Operations Officer of a new national infrastructure division focused entirely on rebuilding aging bridges, schools, and public hospitals across America. The position came with a salary beyond anything Ethan had ever earned, company shares, and complete authority to lead projects according to his uncompromising ethical standards. Ethan sat silently. For months, he had questioned his worth. In a single afternoon, someone reminded him that character creates opportunities money never can. He accepted the offer with tears quietly filling his eyes. Over the following years, Ethan transformed the company. He refused shortcuts. He insisted every worker be treated fairly. Safety became the company's highest priority. Communities that had been ignored for decades finally received modern hospitals, stronger roads, and safer schools. Employees admired him because he remembered every difficult season of his own life. Whenever someone struggled financially, Ethan created emergency assistance programs within the company. He believed leadership meant lifting others rather than standing above them. His success attracted national attention. Business magazines praised his vision. Television networks featured his remarkable journey. Universities invited him to speak about ethical leadership. Yet despite his growing wealth, Ethan never purchased extravagant mansions or private islands. Instead, he quietly funded scholarships for engineering students whose families couldn't afford tuition. He donated millions toward rebuilding neighborhoods damaged by natural disasters and created apprenticeship programs for veterans returning to civilian life. One evening, nearly 4 years after the divorce, Ethan attended a national charity gala in New York City. The ballroom sparkled with elegance. Business leaders, politicians, celebrities, and philanthropists filled the room. As Ethan entered, cameras flashed from every direction. Across the room stood Victoria. She froze. Standing beside her was the wealthy businessman she had left Ethan for. Their relationship had collapsed long ago after financial scandals destroyed his reputation. Most of the luxurious lifestyle Victoria had chased disappeared almost overnight. She watched as influential guests surrounded Ethan with admiration. Executives waited patiently just to shake his hand. Community leaders thanked him for rebuilding their towns. Parents hugged him because new schools had changed their children's futures. For the first time, Victoria saw the man she had once dismissed. Not because of his wealth, because of the respect he had earned. Ethan noticed her across the ballroom. Their eyes met briefly. There was no anger left, no bitterness, no desire for revenge, only quiet peace. He offered a gentle nod before continuing toward another group of guests. That simple gesture hurt Victoria more than any harsh words ever could. She realized the greatest loss of her life had never been financial. It had been walking away from someone whose greatest strength was invisible until she chose not to see it. Weeks later, Ethan established the Walker Foundation, dedicated to helping displaced workers rebuild careers after unexpected job loss. Thousands of families found hope through free education, job placement, counseling, and financial planning programs. During the foundation's opening ceremony, Ethan spoke about failure. He explained that losing everything had taught him the true value of compassion. He reminded the audience that success measured only by money eventually disappears. Success measured by integrity lasts forever. Jonathan Carter proudly watched from the front row, smiling like a father seeing his son fulfill his purpose. As the applause filled the auditorium, Ethan quietly remembered the lonely afternoon he had walked away from the courthouse carrying only one suitcase. At the time, he believed life had abandoned him. Now he understood something profoundly different. Sometimes the doors that close are protecting us from a future too small for the life waiting ahead. Pain had prepared him. Rejection had strengthened him. Heartbreak had refined him. The limousine had not rescued him. His character had. The limousine simply arrived when the world was finally ready to recognize it. If this story has touched your heart, please take a moment to write this in the comments. Character always wins. As Ethan looked over the family smiling outside the new community center his foundation had built, he realized true wealth wasn't counted in bank accounts, luxury cars, or expensive homes. It was measured by the number of lives made better because someone chose integrity when nobody was watching. The man who had once walked away from a courthouse believing he had lost everything had actually been walking toward the greatest purpose of his life. And sometimes, the greatest blessing begins the very moment we think our story is over. Before you leave, if this story inspired you or reminded you never to give up after heartbreak, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who needs hope today, and leave a heartfelt comment below. Your support helps these stories reach people who may need encouragement the most.